Jess, welcome back to the Not Carrie Bradshaw YouTube channel. In this video, I'm so excited to recap or review, however y'all want to put it. People are very specific about what either of those terms means. And I'm like, aren't we just here to kiki about our favorite topics? Does it matter? Anyway, we're here to kiki about the premiere of Bridgerton Season 2. I missed the decadent set design, the florals, the anachronistic fashions. I missed it all. And I want to be clear that sometimes just let people enjoy things. There are people who are just in an uproar about, oh, this isn't historically accurate, blah, 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 blah. This is fictionalized entertainment. If this were the real thing, we would be looking at a totally different show. Like, we wouldn't be able to engage in the frivolity of high society if they were completely accurate and going, you know, to the letter about what was happening historically. Like, just let people enjoy things. Like, honey, go watch a documentary if that's how you feel, okay? I have decided that for shows like Bridgerton, where we don't have to wait for an episode each week, it kind of doesn't make sense for me to recap each episode. The point of doing like a weekly recap for things that are released traditionally, like on a weekly basis, is that we're talking about them during the week to tie us over to the next episode. We don't have to do that with a show like Bridgerton that's already, the whole season is on streaming services. So I've decided I'm going to review the first episode and the last episode of the season. So today, like I said, we're going to be talking about the season 2 premiere. And then in a couple days, I'm going to post an episode recapping the entire season. I just feel like that kind of covers all bases, because I was thinking like, well, when I watch stuff or I binge things, I don't want to like stop to go and look at someone's review. It just kind of didn't make sense. So I hope you guys are okay with that. It makes sense to me. I hope it makes sense to you. So let's dive right in. So it is the top of the season for high society. The girls are about to debut, which means that we have to deal with draining ass Eloise. Now, if you are new to this space, I think that in my season 1 reviews, recaps, I expressed that I found Eloise to be really annoying. Here's the thing. I get if the parade of women is not your thing. I understand if you as a young feminist just feel like women shouldn't have to be judged this way and I don't want to do this, or, you know, this isn't even my style. I don't want to be compared to my sister. I'm not as pretty as her. Blah, 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 blah. I understand all the things. However, what other choice do you have? This is what life is right now. And again, this in a lot of ways is incredibly frivolous, and women should be able to be judged by more than their looks and, you know, how well they curtsy and all of these things, for sure. All of that is rooted in patriarchy. But also, if you're going to do it, just do it. I think, what did Candy say? If you don't want to do it, don't do it. Just don't do it. If you're going to act like this the whole time, like, girl, don't do it. Like, she is so annoying. She lacks so much self-awareness. Eloise, for me, is the embodiment of problematic white feminism, because she has the right ideas, but she lacks the self-awareness to know how she herself impacts the people around her. And I just find her to be insufferable. And I'm hoping that over the course of the season, we get to see her evolve a little bit more, because I can't even stand the way that she's treating Penn, because Penn is like, Penn is not really being coy or really actually hiding that she's Lady Whistledown. It's kind of right there. She hasn't come out and said it, but if Eloise were paying attention to anyone other than herself and her plight, she would notice her best friend is quite clearly Lady Whistledown. And it's just like, this is problematic white feminism. You're not seeing anyone outside of yourself. What I found to be the theme of this episode and possibly this season is that for every privilege, there's also a burden. So I just kept seeing all these parallels between the lives of our characters. So, for example, because Colin, is like the youngest brother, he doesn't have the responsibility of getting married immediately and taking care of the family. He can kind of go do his own thing. And we know that per last season, he kind of ran off because like the girl he fell in love with just, was a bit, she was on some shady shit and like that's fine. So he's been like globetrotting. And Eloise wishes that she had that same freedom to go off and just do whatever. Meanwhile, Antony is really taking his role as the eldest brother and, the Viscount really seriously this season. I think that this is his way of getting over city girl Sienna. She has moved on. So now like he recognizes he has to get married and he has to pay these bills for this family and he has to manage the family's money. And he's taking it really, really seriously. But the way that he's going about looking for partnership is in a very methodic way that involves no real emotion at all. It's like, I just need to marry someone who's the least objectionable person possible. And he has all of these standards that I don't want to say that they're too high, but maybe he could be a little bit more flexible in them. And it also seems like the goalpost is moving. Like, is one person going to be everything? Probably not. Can we, again, just take the least objectionable person? But I think it's also, he has that thing, that avoidant personalities tend to have where they build up in their mind this ideal or perfect person. And I think in a lot of ways, Sienna, despite the fact that she wasn't a part of high society, that was who he really wanted. And nobody is really going to give him what he had with her, actually. So kind of fighting a losing battle until he meets the season's, diamonds. We'll get there. So meanwhile, the Featherington family, following the death of their patriarch, they on hard times. Chad. They trying to sell stuff in the house. They trying to sell candlesticks. Philippa is supposed to get married, but they don't really have money for new dresses for the season. They don't really have money for her dowry. And Lady Featherington is really laying it on thick in terms of like explaining to these people like, Chad, I just ain't got it, and she's just basically saying that she's just grieving and just going through so much. And that's the reason why they haven't really moved forward, like beyond the courtship process. What they're really waiting for is for the new Lord Featherington to come through, and they're expecting it to be this like crotchety, old curmudgeon, man. And the new Lord Featherington is actually kind of easy on the eyes and somewhat of an adventurer, and he's there to provide and take care of everything. And Lady Featherington, I think, is just kind of trying to figure out like what her role exactly is going to be in her household now, because he's kind of moved her out of the main rooms. He's taking over. She wants to advise him on high society. He's like, I will hire somebody. Thank you so much anyway. And she kind of feels like she's being like kind of edged out a little bit. But meanwhile, everyone else in the house is kind of like smitten with him or just like kind of charmed by him. Like, he's not so bad. And it's just like, at least y'all don't have to just eat like boiled potatoes every day. Like, babe, count your blessings. So again, it's like there's the privilege of, well, there's a new man to come in and take care of everything. But then there's the burden of, well, where does this leave me? And how exactly is he going to run our home? Is it going to be different? Like, who's this new person that he's going to bring in? So I really hate Penn's sisters. They give heavy Cinderella wicked stepsister energy. I mean, aesthetically and everything. Like, I find them just displeasing, off-putting, do not want, So meanwhile, everyone wants to know, where's Lady Whistledown? Where is she? Who is she? How is she getting by? How's she getting this information? How's she getting the tea on everybody? And there is, continues to be this speculation. It's like, well, if she hasn't written anything in the off season, that means that she's one of us. But it's also kind of like, well, if it's the off season, she don't really have nothing to write about, right? Like, let's think this through. So, I'm really loving Penn's journey this season. I love the burden and the privilege. Penn is kind of an invisible person. Her sisters don't really take her seriously. Her mom kind of writes her off because she isn't this highly sought after girl. And she's just kind of an invisible person, almost like house staff. It's like they're there, but people don't really look at them as fully actually realized people. And so that's why she can move about in these rooms and eavesdrop and hear the tea and listen to like the wait staff talk about like, oh, I heard this about this person. And, because she's not noticeable. Now, the burden of that is that she doesn't really feel seen by the man who she desires, who is Colin. But the privilege is that she gets to do this really fun thing and be this really scandalous writer, and she gets to make money, and she gets to sneak off into the night and change her accent, and she gets to be the business bitch. Like, it really gave me Kelly Kapoor, the business bitch energy, when she went and was negotiating with the guy who runs the press machines and everything. And also, shouts out to Penn for being a woman of the people. She's like, you also need to increase the wage for the paper boys because they're the ones out here doing the hard work. And I was like, okay, push through, Penn. Like, intersectionality. This is what Eloise is lacking. But what we do also gather is that Eloise is kind of not losing interest, but kind of questioning the value of Lady Whistledown, because it's like, is she not just perpetuating this really unproductive system by which women are judged like hogs at a fair? And so Penn does start to kind of question the nature of her content and actually starts to challenge the queen. If you're going to name a diamond of the season, then maybe that woman should be a little bit more than just this or that. Like, can we make this into something more? And that is one of the good things I will say about Eloise kind of being annoying as hell, but at least Penn gets to kind of know what her audience is thinking. Like, this is like firsthand audience feedback that maybe she otherwise wouldn't have gotten. So again, loving Penn, the business bitch. So Antony is going on all these dates. He's not pleased or impressed with any of these women or their mothers, and everyone is clamoring for him, right? And just as an aside, in real life, I love how since Regé-Jean Page is no longer on the show, they have really pushed Antony, that character, to be the heartthrob of the season. And there are all these like spreads and like editorials and, oh, he's so hot. And it's like, is he? Okay, sure, I'll take it. He's not bad to look at, but it's just so interesting how season 1, all anyone could talk about was the Duke and like miss his face dearly. And now that he's kind of, they're no longer a part of the storyline, here goes, Antony really being pushed like as this, sex symbol, which I think a lot of people did see him as that in the first season. Those sex scenes with him and Sienna, sure. But just in real life, it looks like there's a real media push to make him much more of a heartthrob. So meanwhile, he's going on these dates. He's really not impressed with anyone. And one day when he's leaving from a brothel, support sex workers, he has a chance encounter with the young lady who is a part of the new family that we're introduced to this year, the Sharmas. And they have this race on horseback, and the whole time, like, every muscle in my body was clenched so hard. I was like, oh my God, like, one of them gonna have an accident and it's about to take just like a wicked turn. It did not. Everything was fine. Again, low stakes. So he actually is really impressed with how Kate is just like really quick on her toes and she's very witty. What I want to know is like, what was Kate actually doing out there? We find out a little bit later in the episode. We'll get there about like what that actually was, where she was going. I think I know, but again, I haven't finished the season yet, so we'll see. But I suspect that she was meeting up with her sister's her mother, stepmother's family. I'm getting ahead of myself. So we find out that this woman who, they had a meet cute, like Antony and Kate had like a weird, adventurous meet cute or whatever. He's kind of taken with her, but everyone moves on with their life. This is where we're introduced to the Sharma family. Lady Danbury is sponsoring them for the season. Y'all know I love my good sis, Lady Danbury. I feel like they heard my concerns about her hairline, like her wigs, and really tried to like soften it up a bit this season. And I really appreciate feeling like my feedback and my notes were taken seriously. I am going to take credit for that. Thank you so much. So here's what we learn about the Sharma family. The mom, Lady Mary, came from comes from an important family in high society. She was the incomparable of her, class of girls, like, class of 1882, whatever, she was the diamond of her season, but she actually fell in love with a commoner, and they, left for India. They had a baby, but that man already had a kid, and that kid was Kate. And then Lady Mary and this man, Appa, had their own daughter whose name is Edwina, right? And Kate has been kind of grooming Edwina the whole time to return to England and to marry well and to make a place for herself in society. Like, they ran out of money in India, so they didn't have a whole lot. So this is like their kind of one opportunity to reestablish themselves, really be taken care of. Now, Kate isn't really in the running to be married off because she's not technically from, a family in high society. And a part of the way that they consolidate wealth and consolidate social status and keep the people who are high up is by only marrying within this certain social circle. They don't really want to let any outsiders in. Kate is considered an outsider. So she's devoted her life to really grooming Edwina in different languages, different instruments, dancing, blah, 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 blah. So she's telling Lady Danbury, like, oh, my sister's already like really well versed in all these different areas to make her like, a competitor for the debut season. Now, they don't really want the queen. Lady Danbury didn't want the queen to meet Edwina and to see Lady Mary again until Lady Danbury had a chance to really like give them a once over and see how she actually felt about things, right? And so, and the initial, project of the queen trying to judge everyone got interrupted because Lady Whistledown dropped a new mixtape. So that didn't work out anyway. Well, Lady Danbury is hosting the first ball of the season anyway, so that's going to be their opportunity to meet the queen. And Edwina's a gorgeous girl, and while Kate has the best of intentions, what she doesn't understand is that Lady Danbury knows how to schmooze, knows how things work in high society. So even though she, Kate is like, we already got that covered, it's like, but Lady Danbury, this is her world. So you can kind of like learn something from her too. Kate is kind of a know-it-all, but she has the best of intentions. And what I love is that there is again, like a parallel between Kate and this conversation that she ends up having with Lady Danbury, where I thought that it was like quite clear, or I assumed that it was understood that they were there to find Edwina a match. I wasn't really clear on why Lady Danbury felt deceived, but maybe I need to go back and rewatch it. You guys slide down in the comments and let me know like what that confrontation really was about. But they don't want, Kate doesn't really want for Edwina to know how much their family needs for her to marry well so that they aren't poor and destitute, right? And so, because Kate wants for Edwina to marry well and to be happy, she doesn't want her to just marry anybody or, be sold off to the highest bidder, right? Which is fair. Who wouldn't, want that for their sister, of course. Lady Danbury is like, you also need to understand that in this society, everybody doesn't really get to marry for love. Sometimes it is more of like an arrangement, and that's like perfectly fine and normal. Everybody is just really looking for the least objectionable person to marry possible, and like hopefully that person's not an asshole and y'all can just like go on and get along. So there's like finding a happy medium, but also like, girl, if all you can get out of this is to be a kept woman, take it and go. But I like how, Kate was saying, if the only thing that I had to do to save my family was to marry well, I would do it in a heartbeat. Meanwhile, you have someone like Eloise, who I don't know if she really understands how important it is for her to marry well so that her family can continue to be taken care of. And Eloise doesn't really want to do that. So Eloise has like all this privilege, but doesn't really want the burden of doing what it takes to maintain it. Meanwhile, Kate doesn't have the privilege of marrying well. she just kind of has to play the background, but she does have the freedom to, she has a little bit more freedom because ain't nobody really looking at her like that. Ain't nobody checking for her like that yet. I mean, we can obviously kind of see where this is going, clearly. But I love the parallels, again, between privileges and burdens and the way that those things work. So, y'all know I have my notes. So the queen finally has her ball, where Edwina is deemed to be the diamond of the season. There's obviously a little bit of beef between the queen and Lady Mary, but Lady Danbury kind of, squashes that, smooths things over. Kate overhears the man who she met in the meadow, overhears him just not saying great things about marriage and just being like quite misogynistic. But Antony has decided, like, I'm just going to get with whoever the diamond is of the season and move on with my life, which is Edwina. And then, of course, it's the big reveal that, like, oh, it's you. Oh, it's you. Well, this is my sister. You can never speak to him again. And Edwina's like, but why? So we can quite clearly, like, see where this is going, but I'm not going to make any speculations right here because, again, I have to finish the season. But I am curious to see like who Edwina will end up with, if not Antony, and if Kate will end up with Antony, because it is like two very headstrong people and all of these things. But Edwina actually really knocks Antony off his feet. Like, her answers to his questions are really good, and she's just very quick on her toes. Like, the girl has been brought up well. And Antony is like, well, I'll just take this one to go. Can someone wrap her up, please? And Kate is like, hell no, you can't. We're done here. Surprisingly, Eloise kind of does okay with the queen. Like, there was the awkward moment where she tries to like make a joke or whatever, and it's just like, again, I'm tired of you being awkward and weird, and pulling Penn off to the side every now and again. And I was happy that at least she caught on to the fact that, like, yeah, Penn is kind of into this shit. Like, Penn wants to be chosen, and Penn is kind of into everything that's happening here. And again, I just don't think that Eloise even recognizes the privilege that she has coming from a family that's in much better standing than Penelope's. Like, people aren't really looking at Eloise in the way that they were looking at Daphne, but people definitely aren't looking at Penelope the way that they even would look at Eloise. So again, it's the absent-mindedness that just sends me. So the episode ends with the cousin of the Featheringtons like coming through, like I said, kind of like saving the day. He's going to pay the dowry. Everything's going to be fine. Blah, 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 blah. So that's the premiere of season 2 of Bridgerton. I wasn't feeling great about the season because like season 1 was just so delicious. And I was just like, if the Duke and Daphne aren't in it, then what are we here for? How are we going to enjoy this? But it's Shonda Rhimes, and she's got us again. It's such a pretty show. And just hearing, I really, really love how they do the pop songs with strings, like an orchestral version of pop songs. Like, I loved the Material Girl one, and I look forward to the rest of what they have in the season. I love the costuming. Like I said, I live for each one of the queen's wigs. And I completely forgot that the wig and or costume designer like passed away from COVID. And so they did devote like the first episode to him. But I'm really here for the mess, for the drama, to see how things unfold. So if you guys haven't finished the season yet, slide in the comments and let me know what you think there is to come. Again, come back and check this space. I'm going to binge the rest of the season, and then I'll do like a season 2 finale recap, and we'll talk about everything. But I just wanted to touch base with you guys, let you know that I am watching, and these are my initial thoughts. I'm excited to see where everyone's storyline goes. Actually, like, is Lady Featherington gonna marry the cousin? And like, is the cousin her husband's cousin or her cousin? Because they did do shit like that, like back then. There was like a lot of inbreeding. But again, I'm excited to finish the season. So check back with me soon. Be sure to like, comment, share, subscribe, join my Patreon, and I will talk to you guys soon so we can discuss the finale of season 2 of Bridgerton. Bye.